giants down in a cypress swamp. And then God smiled, and the light broke, and the darkness rolled up on one side, and the light stood shining on the other. And God said, "That's good." Then God reached out and took the light in his hands, and he rolled that light around in his hands until he made the sun. And then he set that sun ablazing in the heavens. And then the light that was left from making that sun, God gathered it up in a shining ball and flung it against the darkness, spangling the night with the moon and stars. And down between the darkness and the light, he hurled the world, and God said, "That's good." Then God stepped down from space. The sun was on his right hand, and the moon was on his left. The stars were clustered over his head, and the earth was under his feet. And then God walked, and where he trod, his footsteps hollowed the valleys out and bulged the mountains up. And then God stopped and looked and saw that the earth was hot and barren. So he stepped on the edge of the world and spat out the 7 seas. He batted his eyes, and lightning flashed, and clapped his hands, and the thunders rolled. And then the waters above the earth came down, the cooling waters came down. And then the green grass sprouted, and the red flowers blossomed. The pine pointed his finger to the sky, and the oak spread out its arms. The lakes cuddled down in the hollows of the ground, and the rivers ran out to sea. And then God raised his arm and waved his hand over the sea and over the land. And God said, "Bring forth! Bring forth!" And quicker than God could drop his hand, fishes and fowl, beasts and birds swam the rivers and the seas, wandered the forests and the woods, and split the air with their wings. And God said, "That's good." Then God walked around, and he looked around. He looked at his sun. He looked at his moon. He looked at all his little stars. He looked on the world that he has made, and with all of his living beings. And God said, "I'm lonely still." Then God sat down on a side of a hill where he could think. By a deep, wide river, he sat down with his head between his hands. He thought and thought until he thought, "I'll make me a man." Up from the bed of the river, God scooped a lump of clay, and by the bed of the river, he kneeled down in the dust. And there the great God, who lit the sun and fixed it in the sky, who flung the stars of the most far corner of the night, who rounded the earth in the middle of his hand, this great God, like a mammy bending over a baby, kneeled down in the dust and toiled the lump of clay into his own image. And then into it he blew the breath of life. And man became a living soul. Amen. Amen.